Is this as close as you can get?
Brenda felt a sudden wave of anxiety as her driver parked a good quarter-mile from the Galveston Island Convention Center. Afraid so, the driver said. No vehicles near GICC anymore. I'm sorry, ma'am. Brenda checked the time on her phone and was startled to see it was already 6:50. A construction zone on 61st Street had slowed them down, and her lecture was to begin in 10 minutes. It's starting to rain, the driver said, hopping out and opening Brenda's door for her. You'll want to hurry. Brenda reached for her wallet to tip the driver, but the man waved her off. Your host already added a very generous tip to the charge. Typical Glen, Brenda thought, gathering her things.
Okay, thanks for the ride.
The first few raindrops began to fall as Brenda reached the top of the graceful two-story awning that descended to the visitor's entrance. The Galveston Island Convention Center is on Galveston Seawall Boulevard and directly faces the Gulf of Mexico. The building is large, with over 60,000 square feet of meeting space. The security checkpoint for tourists entering the GICC is located at the front entrance, which itself has dramatic architecture, the least of which are magnificent two-story windows that overlook the Gulf. Brenda had been looking forward to seeing it, although she hadn't expected quite this long a walk. The skies were threatening to open at any moment, and she broke into a jog, her boots offering almost no traction on the increasingly wet cement. I was not anticipating a 400-yard dash through the rain, she thought to herself as she picked up the pace. When she arrived, she was breathless and panting.
I need to work out more.
Brenda heaved as she pushed through the revolving door, taking a moment in the foyer to catch her breath and brush off the rain. As she did, she raised her eyes to the newly completed space before her. They have done some remodeling since I've been here, she thought. As she looked around, her eyes caught more and more detail.
Okay, I'm impressed.
She whispered to no one in particular. Normally, she would have taken a full hour to admire the architecture, but with 5 minutes until showtime, she put her head down and dashed through the main hall toward the security checkpoint and escalators. Relax, she told herself. Glen knows you're on your way. The event won't start without you. At the security point, a young Hispanic guard chatted with her while Brenda placed her things on the belt and removed her vintage watch. Cats, huh, the guard said, sounding seemingly sweet on her and wanting to start a conversation. Brenda nodded, accustomed to the comments. The watch had been a gift from her mother on her 12th birthday.
I wear it to remind me to slow down and take life less seriously.
I don't think it's working, the guard said with a smile. You look like you're in a serious hurry. Brenda smiled and put her bag through the X-ray machine.
Which way to Grand Ballroom A?
The guard motioned toward the escalators. You'll see the signs. Would you like me to escort you there? He said with a wink.
That's not necessary, but thanks.
Brenda shrugged off his suggestion and grabbed her bag from the conveyor and hurried on. As the escalator ascended, Brenda took a deep breath and tried to gather her thoughts. She gazed up through the rain-speckled glass windows peering into the gray and foggy Gulf. She also took a moment to look over the decor of the building. She was beginning to notice patterns in the architecture and they seemed somewhat out of place for a corporate get-together point in southeast Texas. I wonder if they're aware of what these symbols are, she perplexed as the escalator slowly pushed on. Brenda stepped off the escalator and again checked the time on her phone. 3 minutes. She hurried down the wide corridor, following the signs toward Grand Ballroom A and rehearsing her opening remarks in her head. Brenda had to admit that Glen's assistant had been correct. This lecture topic would be a perfect match for an event hosted for a charity of society's elites. The tolling of a clock began echoing through the GICC. 7 o'clock. Brenda was now running. Talk about a dramatic entrance. Passing through the connecting corridor, she spotted the entrance and headed straight for it. As she neared the door, she slowed to a nonchalant stroll and tried to take several deep breaths. Buttoning her cardigan and straightening her hair, she lifted her chin ever so slightly and turned the corner just as the final chime sounded. Showtime. As Brenda strode into the grand ballroom, she raised her eyes and smiled warmly. An instant later, her smile evaporated. Her heart started beating rapidly as she stopped dead in her tracks. Something was very, very wrong.